present myself. My name is Vibeke Løite, and I work together with Betina Ringby in the Department of Physiotherapy in University College of Northern Denmark. And as Betina was telling you about when she presented the poster that are the grounds project for this issue, actually, the developing of this elective course called the Physiotherapist as a Global Entrepreneur. In that part, we had to think of what do we want with this course. And the most important thing for us was to stimulate reflection in practice. And to do that, we had a goal, and the goal was to challenge the statement that entrepreneurship education is not effective. We wanted it to be effective. We had 4 weeks together with the students. Actually, we only had 3 weeks where we were together with them because they were 1 week abroad in Portugal. So in 3 weeks we had to use methods that was able to that enabled us to reach our goals. And so we started thinking, what can we do? What tools, what methods do the students already know? And the students know a lot of methods. But the thing is that our students is cultural, you can say cultural educated to use frames, theoretical frames that they have to fulfill, like a learning portfolio. They have a frame, they have to use the Smith model, you know that one? Mm-hmm. Yeah? So the Smith model they know very well, but they actually, when we evaluate, they are not very fond of it. So we had to find a method that was much more dynamic and that could entail the process of developing. So we had to have a method that enabled the students to reflect and to change their reflections and be aware of their reflections. So in that way we thought, okay, dynamics is important. The next thing is that in our institution we have a new learning strategy called reflexive practice learning. And that's a strategy that all of the educations in the Department of University of Northern Denmark, we have to use that way of thinking. Actually, it's not very good described yet, but the whole idea is actually, as Alan was telling us earlier, that we have to practice some, then reflection, and sometimes we just have to use what we already know. And that was one thing that we have to reconsider when we should choose the method. Also, we know that our students have very different individual needs when it comes to learning. So the individual needs, we thought, how can we contain that in that method? Some students need a lot of feedback in learning, others doesn't. Some has a faith in themselves, others quite insecure. So they have very different needs in learning. So the method should also be able to contain the different thoughts, the different strategies, the different ideas, the different way of thinking, and the different way of interpreting the theory into practice. So what should we do? We thought, let's choose blogging. Blogging, it's a new method for students to incorporate in a professional setting, but blogging is something they know. They know blogging. It's contemporary. Some of them we expect it. that they would follow some blogs, so they knew the setup and they know how the blogs are developing. Actually, none of our students have ever been following a blog. So, so when we presented this tool or this method, the students were quite shocked, and actually they were quite nervous to begin with, because the thing that they were sure about is that blogging, per definition, is where the author has to post text worldwide. And that was quite scary for some of them. But at the same time, that was actually one of the things that we thought was the positive using the blog, because that was a tool that could broaden reflections worldwide, so they could share with many people at the same time. So even though they were nervous, we told them to create their own personal blog. We used the WordPress.com as a hosting platform because it is simple to use, is free of charge, and the features in the blog and the hosting page are quite similar to some of the features that they know from Facebook or Instagram or all the other databases that they use. Also, you are able to create the site in your own language. So the tools in this hosting platform could be presented in Danish. So that made it easier for the students to work with this. But as I said, none of our students had ever been blogging, and they have not been following a blog. So we gave them 1 hour, one lecture, intensive, with where we presented them to how do you post a picture, how do you post a text, how do you set up your site. Otherwise, they had to learn along the way. That was their challenge. And yes, all of our students created their personal blog. They had a very different look, which actually was what we were hoping for, because we wanted it to reflect their personality and their personal development during this journey on the four-week course. They gave the site a title. We did not set a maximum or minimum for how many posts the students had to make. So that was quite different as well. Some posted every day, used it as a diary-like version. Other posted few times along the 4 weeks, but they posted regarding to the assignments that we gave them, because that was one condition they had to fulfill. They had to reflect on the tasks that we gave them along the course, and Betina will tell you more about the toolbox of these tasks tomorrow. Yeah, I will go on. At last, we evaluated the whole use of blogging, and we used an open-ended questionnaire to hear and to ask them to finish the sentence, "To me, blogging has been a method to ... And I will show you what they were saying. One said, "I didn't feel like a pressure because there was room for interpretation of my thoughts." So the room, they are so used to be examined and judged all the time. This room, they didn't feel like that. It was okay to learn by doing. Another one said, "Sometimes it was challenging for verbal type like me, because I didn't use pictures. It took a lot of time to post." So time consuming, yes, it is. Some of the students, to begin with, they post it, delete, post a new one, delete, Because at first they thought that they have to make a story or telling that embraced people, until they understood that no, that was not the purpose. That was not the purpose. But it takes a lot of time. So it has been a very productive, because I got the opportunity to write down my reflections. It was forced, no, it had forced me to reflect upon what I have done, learned, seen, heard and experienced. Yeah. It surprised me in a positive way. It was a good way to express my reflections on practice. So reflection on practice. Yeah. And at last, it has been a method to getting to know my fellow students better because of the personal posts on the blog. So it has a social aspect as well. And that's interesting. We didn't thought that to begin with. Yeah. So all in all, we must say that blogging has been a success in achieving that our student should have the chance to reflect upon practice and to develop their entrepreneurial mindset in this way. So doing, go back, reflect, write down your reflections to make them conscious. Yeah. It's their megaphone to the world. It's their way to share their experience, their learning process, and they have been grateful to use it. Many of our students said afterwards, perhaps I'll keep on blogging, and that's good. So, yes, that's it.